Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is Andrew Freeman, and welcome to my new YouTube channel where I will be talking about a variety of different sports-related topics. And starting today, what better way to start off this YouTube channel than starting to talk about the NFL draft, which is quickly approaching in 10 days at the time of the recording of this video. And what I will be doing leading up to the draft is giving a preview for each different key positional preview for each position, basically, starting today with the quarterbacks. And what I'll be doing for each of these videos is giving you a top five for each position, giving you a little bit of an in-depth way of the way that I kind of scouted these guys, kind of going over their strengths, their weaknesses, where I think they'll go in the draft, who I best think they best kind of fit the mold of going into this draft, and as well as just giving a broader overview of the position as a whole in this draft, giving you some sleepers, giving you some guys I think are maybe a little bit overrated. So without further ado, I want to start off with the top five, going into the top five quarterbacks for this upcoming 2018 NFL draft. Number 5, I have Lamar Jackson out of Louisville. And, man, just going over some of his college accomplishments here. He was a 2016 Heisman winner, as we all know. He had 119 total touchdowns, 69 passing, 50 rushing. Just absolutely a dynamic athlete at the college game. In the last 2 seasons, he passed for over 3,000 yards both seasons and also rushed for over 1,000 yards for both seasons. He is the prototypical dual threat type of quarterback. And, man, just going over his strengths here, transitioning there, he's an absolutely special and dynamic athlete with the ball in his hands. There's nobody else in this draft class, no matter what the position, that has his ability to be an absolute home run threat. He's a Houdini in cleats with the ability to be a home run threat any single play. He's got transcendent speed at the position. He's very similar to Michael Vick in that if he makes a guy miss, he could go all the way from any distance on the field. The guy's an absolute home run king at this position. Absolutely a transcendent talent in terms of that ability to just run with the football. But he's also got a cannon of an arm. He's got great arm strength for the position. And he kind of makes it where he kind of throws the kind of that flick of the wrist in a way. It's not really a traditional way of throwing the ball, more like a traditional passer like a Josh Rosen in this draft class. But he's got a really nice way of throwing the ball. He can throw some really pretty passes every once in a while. He can make any throw that you want him to. I'll get to his weaknesses in a second in terms of his accuracy. That's where his kind of weaknesses lie in terms of his passing ability. But in terms of the raw ability to make every single throw, Lamar Jackson has every single throw in the toolbox available to him. He's got a lot of natural ability. And what I liked about him seeing in his college career is he showed improvement as a pocket passer every single year. So if he can kind of keep on that trend going into the NFL with NFL coaching, with more complete talent around him. He did not have the best talent around him at the receiver position at Louisville. I think this is a guy that has a lot of potential to unlock at the next level in terms of his passing ability. Now, with that said, transitioning to his weaknesses here, he is an extremely inaccurate quarterback, very inconsistent. He'll make throws that'll make you go, wow, but then he'll just miss very easy layup throws. And where I particularly noticed this when I watched him on film was, he doesn't really make a lot of great throws outside the numbers, which is where you're going to need to do at the next level in the NFL. Particularly with really speedy cornerbacks. You're going to have to make some really pinpoint accurate throws, and he just didn't really show the consistent ability to do that. And he also showed some inconsistent deep ball accuracy, and as well as throwing on the run, which, is a very important aspect for his game, I think, going into the NFL because he's such a dynamic athlete. If he can be a very accurate passer on the run, that will go a long way towards kind of expanding his game, but he really hasn't shown the ability to be an accurate passer on the run, which is kind of concerning considering that, when I also look at his weaknesses, his fundamentals as a pocket passer need a lot of work. His mechanics, I feel like he's a little bit too scrawny, a little bit too, thin in terms of the way his mechanics work in terms of doesn't have that wide base that you'd want from a quarterback typically, which makes his passes be very consistent. So, I feel like a lot of his accuracy problems can be as a result of his mechanics and the way he kind of positions himself in the pocket. That stuff can be worked on, but it may take some time. It may take some time, which is what I'm all saying here. And despite the playmaking ability, he still needs to work on his pocket awareness. He tends to hold on to the ball a bit too long. He took way too many sacks, I feel like, which led to him to some troubles with fumbles and that sort of thing. Again, taking way too many sacks. The college level, he does that in the NFL level. That could lead to some killers on some drives. And he doesn't always have the best feel for pressure in terms of feeling the pressure on his backside or feeling pressure coming up the middle. Even when he can see it right in front of him, he doesn't always seem to have the best feel for the pass rush that's coming at him, which is very surprising considering his great and just incredible athletic running ability, running with the football. So he really needs to patch that up going forward, because if he can combine better pocket awareness with his athleticism and better fundamentals, the sky's the limit on this guy. And what I also noticed in watching his tape is he just wasn't really required in his offense to go through all of his progressions. Often I'd see him go from maybe his first to his second read and then just kind of stop there and maybe just start kind of sprint around a bit, trying to find an opening to make a play. That's not really going to work at the NFL level, even though his athleticism is such a transcendent ability. He's going to have to clean that up at the next level, and that may come with time, I think, with NFL coaching. And maybe something that he might not be able to fix is, for his last weakness here, he's got a very slender frame. And I really do question, this is a big knock for me, is I really question his ability to stay healthy at the next level, because he's going to get hit, and he's going to get hit a lot in the NFL, despite his fact that he's very athletic. He's going to slip a lot out of a lot of tackles, but he's going to get hit eventually. And I question whether he's going to be able to take the pounding that NFL quarterback does take at the next level. So that's a big concern for me, is whether he has the durability, whether he has the frame to be able to hold up for over a 16-game season. I really do question that. It's a big red flag for me. He didn't have really any durability concerns or any injury issues in college. But again, I just feel like with his frame, that might be an issue at the NFL level. So kind of comparing him to an NFL quarterback, I think the easiest comparison to make is Michael Vick. I think there's no other way to go around it. He's just got amazing athleticism, the home run ability to just, make a huge play with his legs whenever he wants. Just there's really not a situation really where your quarterback's the fastest guy in the field. And with Lamar Jackson, there's definitely going to be a lot of cases where he's going to be the fastest guy in the field at the NFL, which, again, you just don't see that at the quarterback position. And he's also got a very strong arm, kind of similar to Michael Vick, although I feel like Michael Vick had maybe a stronger arm than Lamar Jackson does. But that's not a detriment to Lamar Jackson. Michael Vick was a very rare, talented player. For his draft range, where I think he'll be picked, I think he's a mid to late first-round pick. I don't think he slips out of the first round at all. He's just way too talented. And just bottom line, Lamar Jackson, he's too special of an athlete, I think, for him to slip out of the first round. Despite his athleticism, he's still kind of a boom or bust pick due to his frame, the durability issues like I mentioned, his play style where he's more of a run-first quarterback rather than a passing-first quarterback. And he didn't really play, in a conventional offense where he was asked to be a consistent passer from the pocket, which I think that may need some time to kind of work through. He may need a year or two to put some muscle on his frame and to develop as a passer overall, but I still feel like you can use him in some packages as kind of like, similar as like just a guy that you can give him the ball, similar to like a Slash for the Steelers back in the day in the 90s, where you can give him the ball in end arounds, maybe as a gadget guy while he's developing as a quarterback on the bench. And I think a team with a veteran quarterback that's willing to sit him down for a year or two might be the best fit for him in the NFL going forward, at least for the first couple of seasons, where he can kind of sit on the bench, learn the position. Maybe they can use his athleticism in ways that just as a weapon offensively until he learns how to play the quarterback position at the NFL level the right way. But again, he's my number 5 quarterback. I like his potential. He's a bit of a boom or bust guy for me. But I feel like Lamar Jackson, I think he's got too much talent to not be a first-round pick in the upcoming draft. At number 4, I have Baker Mayfield, quarterback out of Oklahoma. Let's look at his college accomplishments here. He was a 2017 Heisman winner, completed 70% of his passes over the past 2 seasons as a starter. And when you look at his career numbers, 129 touchdowns, 29 interceptions. So very efficient, took very good care of the ball, and a lot of production for him throughout his entire college career. Let's go over his strengths for him. Obviously, Baker Mayfield, he's a very charismatic player on the field. He's an alpha dog with personality, with great leadership qualities. His teammates love to play with him, as you can see watching him play and kind of just hearing his teammates talk about him. He's a rah guy, and his teammates just love to play with him, which you always like to see from the quarterback position. And let's make no, this is just a fact. He's the most accurate quarterback in this draft class. He can make every single throw at every single level with pinpoint accuracy, the way that no other quarterback in this class can make. He's absolutely exceptional in throwing guys open. And what I like about Baker Mayfield is outside of the structure of the play, he has the ability to run around and make plays off script, which is very necessary in today's NFL, especially at his size, where I'll get to his size concerns later. But at his size, he may need to get out of the pocket a little bit more in the NFL to take advantage of the fact that he's just not the biggest guy, but he's very accurate throwing on the run, which could be a very good tool set to use in the NFL. As pass rushers are so good these days, and with the way that off the tackle play is kind of declined in the NFL, he may need to use his ability to play off script a little bit more going forward. And he certainly has the ability to go off script and make a bevy of plays using his legs, throwing on the run. So those are some of the things I really like about Baker Mayfield. Now, in terms of his weaknesses, like I said, he's undersized for the position. He's 6'1", measured at the combine, and he's got small hands at only about 9 1/4 inches. So I think playing for teams in maybe a small or, in colder weather where it can be rainy, windy, stuff like that, he might struggle in those type of conditions because his hands might be a little bit just too small to be able to, control the ball and be able to make accurate passes or hold onto the ball when he gets tackled in the backfield for sacks and whatnot. So that's a bit of a concern for me going forward. So I think the right team in terms of the weather and whether they play a dome or not will be a factor for Baker Mayfield as he transitions to the NFL. And also with his lack of height, it's just rare that you see guys that are under 6 feet or around 6 feet tall have success in the NFL. I know Russell Wilson's and Drew Brees, those are two guys that have had immense success at the NFL level. But when you look at those guys were separated 12 years apart in terms of when they were drafted. So it's just very rare for guys of his size to have a lot of success in the NFL. It's a simple fact. There's a lot of concerns that he will have a lot of his passes bad down at the line of scrimmage, whether he'll have the ability to see over his offensive line to make the necessary reads. It's just a simple fact that short quarterbacks just seem to struggle in the NFL. And, another simple fact is guys playing in his type of spread system, let's face it, it boosted his stats a little bit at the college level. Players, when I watch him on film, his receivers were typically wide open seemingly every single play. He did show the ability to throw guys open when needed to, but typically you saw guys running free wide open in that Oklahoma offense. And I'm just not sure if he has the ability or has shown really the ability to make full field reads and be able to kind of scan the entire field and go through his progressions to throw guys open. He hasn't shown that he can consistently do that. I think he does have the ability to do so. He just hasn't shown that. And I think a lot of his stats might have been a bit blown up a bit because he's playing in the Big 12 and he's playing in a spread system that favors the passing game. So those are concerns for me in terms of transitioning to the NFL. Another big concern for me is while he did show the ability to make plays off script, and I think it's definitely necessary at the NFL level, he tries to make those type of off-script plays way too often. He holds the ball way too long, trying to extend plays, which leads to a lot of unnecessary sacks. Certainly at the NFL level, that will definitely lead to a lot of unnecessary sacks. And really, the bigger issue with this is there's just a lot of plays that he missed trying to make the bigger plays. He's going to have to clean that up at the next level, I think, going forward. And that's just a big thing he's going to have to work on, just taking the easy plays, making sure he's dumping off at the right time, just figuring out a balance between making those off-script plays and staying in the system. And then the last thing, I think there are some concerns in terms of his maturity, in terms of being the face of an NFL franchise as a franchise quarterback. You just want a mature guy as your franchise quarterback. It's the hardest position in sports, and if you don't have a guy that can handle the position emotionally and mentally, your quarterback is going to struggle if you cannot do those two things. He's got to be emotionally and mentally mature, I feel like, to be an NFL quarterback. And that's certainly a concern when you look at Baker Mayfield and some of the antics he's had both on and off the field. I think the rest is not a big issue, but when you look at the Kansas game, for instance, Those type of things do play a factor, I think, for many front offenses in the NFL, and whether his personality will be able to mesh with the rest of his teammates in the NFL, because this isn't college anymore. A lot of these NFL guys, it's a professional game. These are grown men. They may not respond to some of his antics like many college kids will. That might be a simple fact that Baker Mayfield may have to face. He might have to, just grow up a little bit, I feel like, in the NFL. I think that will happen eventually, though. I'm not too worried about that, but some GMs might find that a bit of a red flag. So, in terms of pro comparison, I compare him, perfectly to Doug Flutie. He reminds me exactly of Doug Flutie in many ways. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but he does have the ability to make plays off script, almost uncanny-like, his ability to just go out of the structure of a normal NFL play and just make plays all over the field. He's a very accurate quarterback, and I just feel like he's got very good intangibles for the position. So I feel like his draft range is pretty polarizing because I feel like he is a polarizing prospect. I think he can go anywhere from top 5 to the very bottom of the first round. I believe that, some teams will like him, some teams will not like him. There's a very large range of where he can go, but overall, Baker Mayfield is a first-round quarterback overall. So bottom line, like all the quarterbacks in this class, I feel like Mayfield is a polarizing prospect for many people. I think many GMs are split whether his demeanor and leadership style will fit in the NFL and whether that'll fit with their teams. But I believe Mayfield will mature quickly, and the spotlight of the NFL will not be too bright for him whatsoever. He does have limitations in that I feel like he has to run a very similar offense to the one he ran at Oklahoma, mostly because I don't know if he's shown the ability to go through reads at the NFL level in a prototypical traditional offense, and because of his size. You're gonna have to scheme your way to work around the fact that he's just undersized and just get him out of the pocket maybe a little bit more. But nonetheless, he's the most accurate quarterback by far in this draft class, and I think his upside is too high to not be a first-round pick. I think he will be a quality starter in this league overall. He doesn't have the highest upside for me in this draft among the quarterbacks, but I feel like he's a pretty safe bet to be a pretty good, solid starting quarterback in this league. So moving on, my number 3 quarterback in this draft class, Josh Rosen out of UCLA. Let's look at some of his college accomplishments here. He led the second biggest comeback in FBS history versus Texas A&M. I think it was a 34-point comeback, I believe. Just ridiculous. It showed that his ability to, kind of come from behind, maybe answer for some of the intangible issues that many GMs and scouts have kind of put in his face over the past few years or so. He completed 60% of his passes for his entire career, and in his last season at UCLA, he threw 26 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, which is a pretty solid ratio overall. So looking at the strengths of Josh Rosen, what I found watching him on tape was he is by far the most polished pocket passer in the entire draft. He has very good mechanics, very good footwork, has a very good motion throwing the football, very efficient in every single movement that he has. He does a very good job of sliding well around in the pocket, moving up when the pressure comes at him at the side, moving to the side when pressure faces him up the middle. Kind of very similar to Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, the way those guys kind of move well in the pocket to avoid pressure. Not a lot of, nothing really wows you in terms of his movement, but it's all very subtle. A lot of great subtle movement in the pocket to avoid pressure and keep his eyes down the field to make throws. And he's also the most advanced going through professional-style progressions, being a full field reader in terms of scanning all of his options across the field. He's the most advanced out of all these guys. He played in more so of a pro-style offense in college. He played a lot under center, which I really like in terms of transitioning to the NFL. So basically in any single way, he's the most polished guy in terms of being a prototypical NFL pocket passer. And then when I look at his arm talent, he certainly does have the ability to make all the throws in terms of both of his making distant throws down the field, making the touch throws, throwing guys open. He has certainly shown the ability to do all that type of stuff at the NFL level. Whether he does it consistently is another question, which I'll get to later, but he certainly does have the ability to make all the throws necessary at the NFL level. Another thing I like about him, he seems to be a very highly intelligent player. You've heard about him being maybe too smart for the position from his coach, Jim Mora Jr. I don't think that's a negative at all. I think the best players at the position have been some of the smarter guys. You look at Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Both of those guys really played the game from an analytical perspective. So I don't think that's a knock on him at all. I think, if anything, it's a huge positive for him going forward into the NFL that he's a very intelligent player. And like I said, he's just the most pro-ready player in this draft class. I think he'll be ready day one to start right away in the NFL in terms of being just a pure pocket passer. Now, let's go to the weaknesses, because I feel like there are a lot of weaknesses with Josh Rosen here that a lot of guys in the scouting community just don't want to really express in the way they scout him. So, first of all, he's not a great athlete. He's not going to make any plays off script very often. He is very much a guy that needs to be in a structured offense in order to be his most successful. So having a good offensive line, I feel like, will be paramount to keeping him successful in the NFL. And even though he is very polished from the pocket in terms of his mechanics and the way he moves and the way he goes through progressions, like I said, he's got some good arm talent, but it's not exceptional in any way. He's not the most accurate quarterback from what I've seen. He often will make a throw that'll wow you, and then there will be 2 or 3 in about a case of 5 throws that'll just make you scratch your head and say, how did he miss that? He misses a lot of layups, a lot of short, easy throws that a lot of quarterbacks should make, especially for a guy who's as polished mechanically as a pocket passer as he is. It's definitely not a question of mechanics, because the mechanics are always very solid. It's very head-scratching that he'll miss a lot of easy throws. And on some of his deep balls, I feel like he kind of underthrows it sometimes, or maybe babies it to get the completion. He's going to have to work on that going into the NFL, but I feel like with his mechanics, I feel like that might just be the fact that he may not be the most naturally accurate quarterback. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. He's very inconsistent in that way. And like I said, he's got a good arm, but it's nothing special. He can throw some bullets when he needs to, but in general, it's a pretty good arm. He can make all the throws, but it's nothing that really wows you when you watch him on tape. And what I noticed watching him on film is he forces a lot of passes. This guy is going to be a very turnover prone, I feel like, in the NFL, because he's not the most mobile guy. He's going to have to force a lot of passes, I feel like, in the NFL, and that could lead to some turnover issues, I feel like, in the NFL, just because he likes to take a lot of chances with his arm. Even though he goes through his progressions, he will often be very cocky in that he feels like he can make all the throws even when it's not there. And even though he only threw 10 interceptions his last season, I feel like there was a lot of opportunities for a lot more last season. So he's going to have to clean that up going into the NFL. But my main concern for Josh Rosen are the durability concerns. He's got a very slender frame, which I think will make it paramount that he goes to a team that plays in a dome or a warmer climate, because if he goes to a team like a Cleveland or a New York or a Buffalo where he's playing in cold weather year-round and it's more of a tough physical division in terms of both of those divisions, that might be an issue for him, because I don't think his body is built to withstand that type of punishment, especially in those environments. He has to be in a warm, controlled environment, I feel like, in order to withstand the punishment of the NFL. And we've already seen him have issues in college in terms of being injured. He's had concussions. He's had, shoulder injuries. He's had a variety of injuries that have kept him out of games in college. So how is that going to translate to the NFL, where players are bigger, stronger, faster, and play a lot more physical? Those are fair criticism, I feel like, of Josh Rosen that make me very concerned whether he can hold up over long term as a franchise quarterback. So going to my pro comparison for Josh Rosen, when I watch him on tape, he reminds me exactly of Eli Manning in terms of his play style. And I feel like one of the reasons why a lot of people like to overrate Eli Manning, and one of the reasons why a lot of people hold Josh Rosen extremely highly as a prospect, is because both of those guys, even though they're not exceptional in terms of talent, play the position the way a lot of traditional coaches and GMs like to see their quarterbacks play. Playing very mechanically sound in the pocket as a pocket passer, going through progressions as a pocket quarterback, making the throws, not trying to do too much outside of the structure of the offense. That's the way that many traditional coaches still like to view their quarterbacks in today's NFL. So that's one of the reasons why I feel like a lot of guys will kind of have him a little bit higher on their board, because they're more, they feel more safe with the quarterback that plays to that kind of play style. So that's one of the reasons why I feel like Josh Rosen will be as high as, looking at his draft range, as high as a top 3 pick, but I could see him slip down to a mid-first-round pick. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he does have some character concerns in terms of whether his personality will mesh with some NFL front offices and whether he can have those intangibles to be a leader at the quarterback position. So, bottom line, Josh Rosen looks the part of a pro-ready, pure pocket passer. He has some flaws in his game, but I feel like he's the safest quarterback among all these guys, just for the simple fact that he can make, for the most part, all the throws, and he's a pretty fundamentally sound pocket passer. However, he does lack the athleticism, and he has some durability concerns. Combining that with an unremarkable arm talent, I think that really limits his upside in terms of being a franchise quarterback. I feel like many GMs will question his intangibles going to the next level, which I think is, quite frankly, a big deal because we've seen a lot of quarterbacks underachieve due to not having good leadership traits. When I look at Jeff George, is kind of the prototypical case. Vince Young, Matt Leinart. As a Bears fan, I know Jay Cutler definitely underachieved because he did not have those kind of requisite leadership and tangible traits early on in his career with the Bears. That's definitely a concern, I think, going into the NFL. But I think at the very least, Josh Rosen is a safe bet to be a decent starter in the NFL, kind of similar to Eli Manning. He can have some success if you can put some talent around him because he can make all the throws. He can make a lot of throws within the structure of an offense. And overall, I feel like he can be a solid quarterback at the next level. So, moving on, my number 2 quarterback for this upcoming 2018 NFL Draft is Sam Darnold out of USC. Looking at his career accomplishments here, he won the Rose Bowl as a freshman quarterback, filling in midway through the season. He threw 26 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in his last season. And over the course of his USC career, he completed 64% of his passes. So, when I look at Sam Darnold here, this is a guy that, for a lot of people, is the top consensus quarterback among all these guys for this draft. Even though there really isn't a consensus top guy in this draft, Sam Darnold seems to be the guy that most people point to as the number 1 quarterback in this draft. I'll get to why I have him not the top guy in this draft in a bit, but when I look at the strengths of Sam Darnold, he has a very good mix of frame, strength, and mobility that is very prototypical for the position of quarterback. He's 6'4", 220, and he does a very good job of moving around inside the pocket. And when I've heard from GMs and scouts that he is known for having very good intangibles and leadership qualities with his teammates, which, like I mentioned might be an opposite with Josh Rosen, Sam Darnold seems to have that in terms of the intangibles. And while he doesn't have necessarily a great arm, he doesn't really wow you with some of his arm strength, he's proven that he can make all the throws in terms of throwing the ball in the elements. We kind of saw this in his pro day workout where he threw the ball in the rain and showed that he can make all the throws at every single level with the adequate arm strength and accuracy to make all the throws necessary for an NFL quarterback. And what I really like about Sam Darnold is he's got an uncanny ability to make plays off script that, just not many quarterbacks in this draft class, if any, can seem to make. This guy has great awareness in the pocket, does a really good job of escaping pressure, feeling pressure, and knowing when to get out and make a play. And he's got a great accuracy on the run and can certainly just make a lot of plays. He can light up an NFL field at the next level. He's going to be a very exciting player for sure. And what I really like about that, he's got a gunslinger mentality. He's not afraid to throw a few balls in there that maybe he shouldn't, but at the end of the day, it might be a little bit of a detriment like we'll get to later. But that gunslinger mentality leads to a lot of big plays, especially in the clutch. He's shown that he can make a lot of plays in the clutch for his team. He is not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of the spotlight, which I really like about Sam Darnold. I feel like his head is really on straight to be an NFL quarterback, and I feel like the moment will not be too big for him going forward. Now, with that said, he does have quite a few flaws in his game looking at his weaknesses, and I think the major one has to be the turnovers. This is a big deal for him in his last season. His picks went up from 9 to 13 this last season, and he also led the nation with 11 fumbles, which is a very high amount, considering the guy does have pretty good hand size for the position. And a lot of that has to do with his mechanics. He likes to hold the ball with one hand typically when running around in the pocket. He's going to have to do a better job of putting both hands on the ball, something that can obviously be fixed at the next level, but it might be an instinctual thing that might take some time to kind of work out of his system. And also, he just forces way too many throws in traffic. Well, I do like his gunslinger mentality and that he's not afraid to make a lot of throws that some guys, just might not have the guts to make. It does lead to some interceptions and a lot of, head-scratching decisions that I think doesn't really – it's not really a term in terms of just – it's not really him making the bad reads. It's just that he's trying to do a little bit too much. I feel like he was just trying to do a little bit too much last season in terms of trying to make up for not being on the most talented team around him. But I think it is concerning that he did not show much signs of improvement last season. And if anything, he regressed in pretty much every single way. Like I said, some of that might be he didn't have as much talent around him his last season as he did in his freshman year. But it is a concern that he's not really trending up the way you would like to see him, trend up. Another concern for me is that he played in a very simplistic offense. He wasn't really required to make many full field reads, even though he has shown that he has the ability to go through his progressions and scan the entire field. He wasn't really asked to do that very often. So I question whether he can do that at a consistent level at the NFL level, and it may take some time for him to learn how to do that. And he also needs to work, like I said, he needs to work on his pocket fundamentals and not rely on always going off script to make plays. He needs to be able to keep two hands on the ball, work on his mechanics, work on his footwork, being able to slide in the pocket, just so he's more in control and not always relying on having to go off script and just pulling a rabbit out of his hat every time to make a play. So for my pro comparison for Sam Darnold, I compare him very similar to a Tony Romo. Tony Romo was a guy that was very high risk, high reward, liked to go off script a bit, liked to make a lot of plays with his legs, liked to throw the ball on the run quite a bit and extend plays. And I feel like Sam Darnold kind of fits that similar mold where he doesn't have quite the talent of a Brett Favre in terms of being a gunslinger, but he's very similar to Tony Romo, that he's got very similar talent. He's got very good size for the position, and he can certainly make all the throws, although he doesn't really stand out in many ways in terms of his arm strength or accuracy. But he has that special it factor where he can just make plays for you, kind of similar to what Tony Romo did for so long with the Dallas Cowboys. So I see Sam Darnold going anywhere in the top three, really. I really don't see it where he goes anywhere past the Jets at number 3. And I think he might go number 1 as well. He's clearly he's a top quarterback in this quarterback draft class. I think he's a very safe pick. So bottom line, for me, Sam Darnold is probably, if not the safest, one of the safest quarterback prospects in this draft class. He's got prototypical size, prototypical mobility, and the prototypical leadership qualities that I think translate well to the next level. He may need a year to kind of develop, because he needs to not only develop his mechanics, but also transitioning to an NFL offense, learning the NFL concepts that will be needed at the next level. But once he fixes some of those issues, Sam Darnold has all the ability to be a very good quarterback. He's got very special improvisational ability that is very fits well with the modern NFL game. And I feel like he fits well within any system in terms of what you want to run with your offense. So Sam Darnold, that's kind of my thoughts on him. And now, number 1, this may not be a popular pick. I have Josh Allen from Wyoming as my number 1 quarterback in this upcoming draft class. His college accomplishments, aren't that much, to be honest. I'll be honest with you there. 3 years as a starter. He won a bowl game in his final year, but for Josh Allen, it's all about projection and his potential. So I'm going to go through his strengths because, believe me, he's got a lot of strengths in this game. There's a lot to like about Josh Allen as a prospect. For one, I'm just going to say it flat out. Josh Allen has the best arm I've ever seen. This is a once-in-a-generation arm talent. It's in the mold of a Joe Namath, Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, Dan Marino, all those guys, except it might be better. I mean, this guy can throw it 80 yards from his knees on a rope. I mean, it's just incredible type of arm strength this guy has. And that type of ability, if you can kind of mold that as an NFL coach, if you can mold that into anything, productive, I mean, the options are endless with this kid in terms of making NFL throws at the next level. The guy's got special arm talent. And he combines that with the prototypical size that you want from the position. 6'5", 235 pounds, 10-inch hands. He's just got everything you want in terms of the prototypical frame of an NFL quarterback. He's got everything. And not to mention, he's got above average mobility for the position for his size. He ran a 4.7 40, which at 6'5", 235 is really good for his size. This guy can make a lot of plays using his legs. He's shown that he's willing to extend plays using his legs, and he showed that he can do that with a lot of ability. He's just got insane ability. I feel like in Josh Allen, the potential is absolutely through the roof. And just going to his arm, like we'll get to later, his accuracy is a little bit hit or miss for sure, but he's got the ability to make throws from the pocket and especially on the run that I think simply that no other quarterback can make. Not even an Aaron Rodgers can make some of the throws that this kid can make. And Aaron Rodgers is maybe the best thrower of the football I've ever seen, but Josh Allen, in terms of his raw ability to make throws on the run and from the pocket, when he's got everything going for him right, man, the throws this kid can make is absolutely special. He's got incredible ability throwing the football. It just needs to be, just molded and just crafted by an NFL coach to be more consistent. And what I also liked when I studied Josh Allen was he played in an offense that ran many pro concepts. He played under center a lot. So he's going to come in understanding a lot of the nuances of the position in terms of the way it's played at the professional level. And one more thing on Josh Allen, I absolutely love his intangibles. This is a kid who grew up on a farm. He wasn't recruited out of high school, so he's going to have a chip on his shoulder that, he's always been overlooked his entire life. He's never gotten his due in his mind. He's going to want to go out there and absolutely embarrass guys for overlooking him. And when I look at him on a film, this guy is a great competitor. He never gives up on any given play. He was played with lesser talent at Wyoming for the majority of his career. And very often he elevated the talent around him to be a lot better. You can see when he got injured this past year, his team got absolutely destroyed by two inferior teams that they probably would have beaten if Josh Allen was in the game had he not been injured for those two games. He's a great competitor, like I said, and he just seems to have the leadership qualities that you want. He seems to be a student of the game. When I listen to him in interviews, he seems like the guy. And I think his mental makeup, I don't know him. I haven't had a conversation with him at any point, but I feel like he's got the mental capacity to be a face of a franchise at the next level. Now, with that said, there are some weaknesses and very glaring weaknesses with Josh Allen. He is not a safe slam dunk prospect by any means. This kid is very raw. He's going to need time to develop and sit and learn as an NFL quarterback. And let's talk about the main problem with him is the accuracy. I'm a little bit higher on his accuracy than most people, but even I have to admit, the career 56% completion percentage, that's a big deal. He wasn't throwing to guys that were consistently getting good separation, but when I watch him play, there were many times where even though he would make a lot of spectacular throws, he would also miss a lot of easy layup throws that, I feel like even a guy like me could make, for instance. He missed a lot of easy throws out there. I feel like a lot of it has to do with the fact that his mechanics are just not very consistent. When his mechanics are right, he's shown that he can be plenty enough accurate to make the throws. That being said, he's not the most naturally accurate guy. He's not going to be the guy that's going to be completing 65, 68, 70% of his passes in the NFL. He's simply not. He's not that type of quarterback where he's going to have a very high completion percentage. But that's just not his game. But it certainly is something he's going to have to work on at the next level if he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, because if he can't throw the ball accurately, consistently, that's going to be something that NFL defenses will expose of him at the next level. Some other weaknesses when I look at Josh Allen, he played against weaker competition, and he didn't necessarily dominate his competition in terms of the stat sheet. His statistics were very marginal at best. If I'm being honest, the stats don't lie. He was very pedestrian. And especially when he played against Power 5 conferences like Iowa, Oregon, he really struggled. He didn't really have his best performances against quality competition. So, there is something to the fact that he may not be able to adjust to the NFL level in terms of the talent difference between the conference that he played at and where the talent's going to be at the NFL. That's definitely a concern. And when I watch him play, he's going to have to learn how to throw with better anticipation at the NFL level because I mean, his arm talent is so spectacular that he can just rely on just waiting for his receiver to get open and using his raw, natural arm strength to just throw lasers to the guy. And in the NFL, he's going to have to do a better job of anticipating the routes of his wide receivers, throwing it into windows with touch and accuracy, and not just rely on seeing a guy open and just trying to throw bullets to the guy. He's going to have to do a better job of anticipating his receiver getting open and making the right type of throw to that guy at the next level. So my pro comparison for Josh Allen, a lot of people want to compare him to Carson Wentz, and while I definitely see the comparisons there, I think he fits mostly to a younger version of a Ben Roethlisberger when he was young in his career with the Steelers. Both guys like to play off script a little bit. Both are big, athletic dudes that are really tough to bring down. The one difference I think between these two guys is while Ben Roethlisberger was more polished and was a better player in terms of his college production, Josh Allen has his arm talent is off the charts, really. There's really no one with his type of arm that I've ever seen going into the NFL draft. It truly is a special arm talent. That's what I'll say about Josh Allen. But I feel like Ben Roethlisberger is the closest comparison. I feel like going to the next level. And in terms of where he'll be drafted, personally, I would pick Josh Allen number 1 if I'm the Browns. But they may not like the fact that he might be too raw. I can see him going anywhere in the top 10. Really, he might slip because of the fact that, like I said, he's not the most accurate guy. He played at a smaller school, didn't play with great competition, and he's just very raw at this point. But bottom line, Josh Allen, he is a special talent at the quarterback position, I believe. He is definitely the biggest boom or bust prospect in this draft class. That is for sure. I'm definitely aware of that. Believe me. But I just feel like I'm in the minority here, but I just feel like Josh Allen's potential is so ridiculously high. It would be foolish for me to not rate him as the number 1 quarterback in this draft class because nobody has the type of potential that Josh Allen does. If he can put it all together, the sky's the limit for this kid. Like I said, Josh Allen will never be the most accurate passer ever, but he makes up for it with his great size, an underrated understanding of pro concepts, intangibles that I think are very underrated, and like I said, an absolutely incredible cannon of an arm. If he is given time to sit and develop in the right situation, I believe Josh Allen will be one of the elite passers, elite quarterbacks in the game for a very long time because he's got the frame to last in the NFL. So those are my top 5 quarterbacks in this upcoming 2018 NFL draft class. But let's look at some guys I feel like that could be some sleepers for some teams that may not need a quarterback right now, but may want to get a guy to kind of develop on day 2 or 3 going forward. So my first guy is Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State. In my opinion, Mason Rudolph has the best deep ball in the entire draft class. He may not have the strongest arm per se, but he is very good in terms of the aesthetic of his deep ball. He's a very good-looking deep ball. Those are with great arc on the ball, and he's very accurate in terms of his deep ball accuracy. So I feel like he could provide a lot of value in terms of being a 2nd or 3rd round pick for a team that may want a guy to kind of develop on the bench for a few years. But my concern with Mason Rudolph is he may be more of a system type of quarterback rather than a naturally great quarterback. So I feel like it might be a situation where he needs to be in the right team, the right situation, in the right system to develop into a solid starter. But nonetheless, I feel like Mason Rudolph has the ability to be a very solid starter in the NFL. It'll just have to be to the right team, I feel like. And another guy I feel like is a sleeper in this draft class is Kyle Allen out of Houston. This is a guy that has really had his draft stock rise during the pre-draft process over the past few weeks. He wasn't invited to the NFL Combine. He really didn't play a lot in his college career, surprisingly, when I studied this kid. But he's got great arm talent for the position. He can make every single throw. He's got a very strong arm. He can be very accurate at times. He's got some consistency issues there, obviously. For Allen, it really comes down to the fact that he just never found the right situation in college. He transferred to Houston after a sticky situation at his old college where he wasn't going to play And then they changed offenses and coaches on him after his first year at Houston, I believe. Like I say, he just never had the right situation for him where he was never a fit anywhere he went to in college, which really held him out of being a top flight prospect where he was predicted to be coming out of high school. So Kyle Allen's a guy that, because of his potential, he can go anywhere from round 3 to round 6, I believe. And if he goes to the right team, he's a guy that I think could be a starter in the right situation for a lot of teams if he's giving time to develop and let his arm talent really manifest into being a starter in the NFL. In terms of overrated prospects, there isn't really one guy that I want to point out in terms of being an overrated prospect. But I will say that my top 5, even though I like all these guys, I'd say all of the guys in the top 5 of these quarterbacks are overrated to a degree. I think a lot of guys want to single out any one of these guys to be surefire franchise quarterbacks. That is not the case. Every single one of these quarterbacks has question marks and major red flags, I feel like, in terms of being NFL quarterbacks and whether they can be relied upon to be a safety net for an NFL franchise looking to get their franchise guy. When I look at Lamar Jackson, undersized, and he's not really a prototypical pocket passer. Baker Mayfield, undersized. Character concerns, coming from a spread system. Those are all major red flags. Josh Rosen, the durability concerns, doesn't really have the highest upside. The leadership concerns. Does he really need football? Does he really want to be a great NFL quarterback? Those are some major concerns with Josh Rosen. Sam Darnold, the turnovers, the fact that he only played 2 years in college, the fact that he regressed his last season in college. Those are some major concerns for Sam Darnold. And then Josh Allen, who I absolutely love. I had to admit that he's not a safe prospect. He's very much a boom or bust guy. He's either going to be a Hall of Famer or he's going to be a major colossus bust. So it's just all dependent on the situation, whether these teams can put these quarterbacks in the right situation, whether these guys can surround their quarterbacks with the right people, the right coaches, the right personnel, the right amount of the good teammates to surround them with. That's all going to be very dependent on the situation that these guys go to. But it's going to be making for a very interesting draft. This is certainly a very intriguing quarterback draft class going forward for the 2018 NFL Draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who's your number 1 quarterback in this draft class? Who's a guy that you think can be a sleeper, and who do you think is overrated? Let me know in the comment section below. And, of course, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you, guys.